The simulation chamber was massive, stretching nearly half a kilometer in every direction. Lauren Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead as the last of the holographic enemies faded into nothing. Her breathing was heavy, her muscles ached, and her uniform clung to her back. Around her, other cadets from 5 different species were doing the same, trying to catch their breath after the brutal exercise. The mission had not gone well. Lauren knew it. Everyone knew it. The team had been supposed to secure 3 different positions at once, but the timing had fallen apart. The Zentari cadets had charged forward too fast. The Peltharian cadets had moved too slow. The humans had ended up caught in the middle, trying to cover gaps that kept getting bigger. 2 of their objectives had failed completely. Lauren looked at the other human cadets near her. Kyle Patterson shook his head slowly, his expression tired. Next to him, a cadet named Amy Burton was checking her equipment, probably looking for something to blame besides their poor coordination. They all knew what was coming. General Vokthor did not accept failure quietly. The general stood at the observation platform above them. His 4 arms crossed over his broad chest. He was huge, even for a Zentarii. His species averaged over 7 feet tall, and Vokthor was bigger than most. His skin had a gray-blue tone that darkened when he was angry. Right now, it was very dark. Pathetic. His voice boomed through the chamber's speakers. Every cadet in the room straightened automatically. I have seen younglings perform better than this. I have seen injured soldiers perform better than this. You are a disgrace to this academy. He began descending the stairs from the observation deck. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the metal steps. Each step seemed to echo through the sudden silence. Lauren felt her stomach tighten. She had heard stories about General Vokthor. He had been training soldiers for 30 years. He was known for being harsh. He was known for being effective. He was also known for not understanding humans very well. Vokthor reached the main floor and walked slowly through the assembled cadets. He stopped at a Peltharian first, a short reptilian being, who actually trembled as the general loomed over him. The general's criticism was sharp and loud. The cadet could only nod and accept it. Then Vokthor moved to one of his own species. The young Zentarii stood perfectly still as the general berated him. When Vokthor struck him on the shoulder with one hand, hard enough to make an audible sound, the young cadet did not even flinch. He simply acknowledged the correction and remained at attention. Lauren noticed this. It seemed normal for them. The general continued through the ranks. Each stop brought more criticism. Some cadets received verbal warnings. Others got physical corrections, mostly the Zentarii ones. It appeared to be their way. The general would strike them on the shoulder, the chest, or the back of the head. Not gently. The sounds carried across the chamber. But none of them reacted. They just accepted it and moved on. Then Vokthor reached the human group. He stopped in front of Kyle first. You hesitated at the breach point. Hesitation kills soldiers. Hesitation kills teams. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Kyle responded clearly. Then why did you do it? I was waiting for the Zentarii team to clear the right side as planned, sir. Vokthor's eyes narrowed. Plans change in combat. You adapt or you die. He moved on without striking Kyle. Lauren wondered if that was significant. Then the general stood before her. His height forced her to look up to meet his eyes. Those eyes were sharp, intelligent, and currently very displeased. Cadet Martinez. Helm. Yes, sir. You abandoned your position in the second phase. Explain. Lauren kept her voice steady. Sir, I repositioned to provide cover for the Peltharian team when they came under heavy fire. Their assigned support had moved forward with your team, and they were exposed. I did not order you to reposition. No, sir. But the protocol for Situation 3 Alpha states that, when an allied unit is under fire without adequate cover, the nearest capable unit should provide support. The silence that followed was heavy. Around them, other cadets seemed to stop breathing. Lauren realized too late how her words might sound. She had not meant it as an argument. She was simply explaining her decision. She had followed her training, followed the protocols they had all studied. But General Vokthor's skin darkened even more. his forearms tensed. "You dare to explain yourself to me? You dare to justify disobedience?" "Sir, I was not trying to." The slap came without warning. One of Vakthor's large hands swung in a wide arc and struck Lauren across the face. The force of it snapped her head to the side and sent pain exploding through her cheek and jaw. She stumbled sideways from the impact. What happened next occurred in less than 2 seconds. But later, people would describe it in slow motion. Lauren's body reacted before her mind fully registered what had happened. Years of training, drilled into her since she was 12 years old, took over completely. Her father had been military. Her mother had been military. Self-defense had been a language she learned as early as reading. As Vakthor's hand completed its arc and he began to pull it back, Lauren moved. She did not think about rank. She did not think about consequences. She only reacted to a threat. Her left hand shot up and caught his retreating wrist. At the same time, she stepped into his space rather than away from it. Her right hand drove forward, fingers extended, and struck a pressure point cluster just below his rib cage. The Centauri anatomy was different from human, but certain nerve centers were universal among species with similar builds. She had studied this. Vakthor's eyes went wide with shock. His breath left him in a sudden gasp. Lauren did not stop. She pivoted her body, using his own momentum and size against him. Her leg swept behind his knee at the exact moment she pulled his captured wrist downward and across. The massive general dropped. One moment he was standing over her, dominant and powerful. The next moment, he was on his knees, struggling to breathe. One arm still controlled by Lauren's grip, then reality crashed back into Lauren's mind. She released his wrist and stepped back quickly, her own eyes going wide with horror at what she had just done. Her hands came up instinctively, defensive but no longer aggressive. The simulation chamber was absolutely silent. 50 cadets from 5 different species stood frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. A human cadet, barely 5.5 feet tall, had just dropped one of the most respected Centauri generals in the coalition to his knees. Vakthor was still on the ground, one hand pressed to his ribs where she had struck him, trying to get his breathing back under control. He looked up at Lauren with an expression that mixed pain, shock, and something that might have been rage. Kyle Patterson was the first to move. He rushed to Lauren's side, putting himself slightly between her and the general. 2 other human cadets followed quickly. On the other side, Centauri officers were running toward their fallen general, their faces showing pure disbelief. The holding cell was small, clean, and completely bare, except for a bench built into the wall. Lauren sat on that bench with her back straight and her hands folded in her lap. She had been here for 6 hours now, 6 hours to replay those 2 seconds over and over in her mind. 6 hours to watch her career dissolve into nothing. The right side of her face had turned purple and swollen. Medical had scanned her before bringing her here. Nothing broken, just heavy bruising. They had offered treatment, but she had refused. Some part of her felt like she deserved the pain. Another part knew that the visible injury might matter later, might show that she had been struck first. She heard footsteps approaching down the corridor. The door opened and Captain Holland entered. He looked tired. The lines around his eyes seemed deeper than they had been that morning. He carried a small tablet and a bottle of water, which he set on the bench beside her. "How are you holding up?" he asked, sitting down across from her. "I ended my career before it started, sir. I assaulted a general. How should I be holding up?" Holland was quiet for a moment. "Tell me exactly what happened. Everything. Start from when he stopped in front of you." Lauren went through it all. The conversation, the slap, her reaction. She tried to be precise, factual. She did not try to justify what she had done. The facts would speak for themselves, whatever that might mean. "You did not plan to strike him," Holland said when she finished. "It was not a question. No, sir. It was pure reflex. My body moved before I even knew what was happening. That is what I thought." He activated the tablet and turned it toward her. "This is the security footage. Every angle. We need to review it together." They watched it 7 times. Each time, Lauren felt sick, watching herself drop General Vakthor to his knees. But each time, it was also clear that he had struck her first. The footage showed his hand making contact with her face. It showed her head snap to the side. Then it showed her response, so fast it was almost a blur. "How fast do you think that was?" Holland asked. "Your reaction time." "I do not know, sir. Maybe a quarter of a second, half a second at most." Holland nodded slowly. "The analysts timed it. From the moment his hand made contact with your face to the moment he hit the ground was 1.7 seconds. Lauren, most species in the coalition cannot process a threat and respond in under 3 seconds. The Zentarii average about 2.5. I do not understand why that matters, sir. I still struck a superior officer. It matters because what you did might not legally qualify as a conscious assault. It might qualify as an involuntary defense response." He paused. "It also matters because a lot of alien species are now very nervous about humans. They watched you drop a Zentarii general, like he was nothing. They are asking questions about human combat capabilities." Lauren felt a chill run through her. She had not considered that angle. "Sir, I am not some kind of super soldier. I just grew up with basic self-defense training. Millions of humans have the same skills. I know that. You know that. But they do not know that. All they know is what they saw." He shut off the tablet. "There is going to be a formal hearing tomorrow. General Vakthor is demanding your expulsion and criminal charges. The Zentarii delegation is supporting him." "I understand, sir. Do you?" "Lauren, this is bigger than just you now. This is about how humans fit into the coalition. This is about whether other species see us as partners or threats." He leaned forward. "I need you to be honest with me. If he had not struck you first, would you ever have touched him?" "No, sir. Never. Not in 1,000 years." "Then we need to make sure everyone understands that." After Holland left, Lauren was alone with her thoughts again. She lay down on the bench and stared at the ceiling. Her face hurt. Her future was uncertain. But more than anything, she felt confused. In human military culture, what Vakthor had done was clearly wrong. Striking a subordinate was assault. It was illegal. But from what she had seen with the other Zentarii cadets, it seemed normal for them, expected, even. How could both things be true? How could an action be both completely wrong and completely acceptable at the same time? The next morning, they brought her to the hearing chamber. It was a large room with seats arranged in a semicircle. Representatives from 7 different species sat in judgment. General Vakthor sat on one side with several Zentarii officers. Lauren sat on the other side with Captain Holland and another human officer named Lieutenant Danny Brooks. Ambassador Nicole Wright was also present, sitting in the observer section. Her face was carefully neutral, but Lauren could see the tension in her shoulders. This hearing mattered to far more people than just those in the room. The presiding officer was a tall, thin being from the Quillian species. His name was Adjudicator Rentok. He had been chosen specifically because Quillians were known for careful, logical thinking. His voice was soft, but clear as he called the hearing to order. "We are here to investigate the incident that occurred yesterday in Training Chamber 7. Cadet Lauren Martinez is accused of assaulting General Vakthor. General Vakthor, please present your account." The general stood. His voice was strong and formal. "I was conducting a standard training exercise review. Multiple cadets had failed to perform adequately. When I questioned Cadet Martinez about her decisions, she argued with me. She attempted to justify disobedience. This is unacceptable in any military structure. I administered a corrective strike, as is standard practice in Zentarii training. The cadet then attacked me, using combat techniques to cause injury and humiliation. Such behavior cannot be tolerated." Murmurs ran through the room. Several alien representatives nodded in agreement. Lauren felt her stomach sink. Adjudicator Rentok turned to her. "Cadet Martinez, your account?" Lauren stood. Her voice shook slightly at first but grew stronger as she spoke. "Sir, I attempted to explain my tactical decision during the exercise. I did not intend disrespect. When General Vakthor struck me, my body reacted defensively before I could process what was happening. I have trained in defensive combat since I was 12 years old. Those reactions are deeply programmed. I did not make a conscious choice to strike the general. My body moved to neutralize a physical threat automatically. Lies, Vakthor said sharply. No one moves that fast without intent. She knew exactly what she was doing. Actually, a new voice said, she probably did not. Everyone turned. Commander Shiala, a Zentarii female officer, stood up from the observer section. She was smaller than most Zentarii males but carried herself with obvious authority. Adjudicator? May I speak? Rentok nodded. Please. Shiala walked to the center of the room. I have been studying human physiology and combat training as part of my role as species liaison. What Cadet Martinez describes is consistent with human neurology. Humans have an extremely fast threat response system. When they perceive danger, their bodies can react in what they call instinct mode. This is not a conscious decision. It is automatic. That seems convenient, one of the Zentarii officers muttered. It is not convenient. It is biology, Shiala replied firmly. She looked at the adjudicator. If I may suggest, we should review the security footage carefully. We should also consult with medical experts on human neurology. The next hour was spent reviewing the footage frame by frame. Analysts pointed out details. Medical officers explained human reaction times. A human neurology specialist, brought in by Captain Holland, described how threat response worked in human brains. The evidence was clear. From the moment Vakthor's hand made contact, to Lauren's first movement was barely measurable. Her pupils had dilated. Her heart rate had spiked. Every biological marker indicated an automatic stress response, not a planned attack. But the Zentarii delegation was not satisfied. Regardless of biology, another general argued, she still struck a superior officer. That cannot go unpunished. And what about the fact that he struck her first? Ambassador Wright asked, speaking for the first time. Her voice was calm but firm. In human law and custom, striking another person is assault. The fact that General Vakthor is a superior officer does not give him the right to physically attack subordinates. We do not accept that practice. It is standard Zentarii military tradition, Vakthor said. For Zentarii, Wright replied. Not for humans. We have different standards, different laws, different customs. If the coalition expects humans to respect Zentarii traditions, then Zentarii must respect human traditions. That respect includes not striking human personnel, regardless of rank. The room erupted in argument. Multiple representatives tried to speak at once. Adjudicator Rentok called for order repeatedly. Lauren sat quietly through it all, watching her fate being debated by people who seemed more interested in politics than justice. The message came to Lauren's quarters the next morning. Commander Shiala wanted to meet with her privately. Lauren felt nervous as she walked through the academy corridors toward the meeting location. Other cadets watched her pass. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked hostile. The incident had divided the entire station. Shiala waited in a small conference room. Captain Holland was there too, which made Lauren feel slightly better. At least she had one clear ally in the room. The Zentarii commander gestured for Lauren to sit. Thank you for coming, Cadet Martinez, Shiala began. Her voice was formal but not unkind. I asked for this meeting because I believe we have all made a mistake. Not you specifically. All of us. The coalition, the academy, the leadership. We assumed that military culture would be universal. We were wrong. Lauren was not sure what to say, so she stayed quiet and listened. Shiala continued. General Vakthor struck you because, in our culture, that is how discipline works. Young Zentarii are trained from childhood to accept physical correction. It builds strength. It builds obedience. It teaches us that pain is temporary, but honor is permanent. When a superior strikes you, you endure it. You learn from it. You become better. That sounds difficult, Lauren said carefully. It is. But it is our way. It has worked for thousands of years. Shiala paused. But you are not Zentarii. You were not raised in this system. When Vakthor struck you, you did not see discipline. You saw an attack. Am I correct? Lauren nodded slowly. Yes, Commander. In human culture, striking someone is assault. It does not matter if they are a superior or not. We have laws against it. We teach children that their bodies belong to them, that no one has the right to hit them. Self-defense is considered a basic right, and that is why you reacted as you did. Yes, Commander. My father always told me that if someone hits you, you have the right to protect yourself. That teaching went deep. Too deep to think about in the moment. Shiala looked at Captain Holland. You see the problem. Two completely different cultures. Two completely different understandings of the same action. Neither side is wrong within their own context. But when we mix contexts, we create conflict. Holland nodded. The question is, how we fix it. That is exactly why I asked for this meeting. Shiala pulled up a holographic display. I have been researching human history. You are not the only species with multiple cultures. Earth has hundreds of different human cultures, yet you found ways to work together. How? Lauren thought about it. We had to learn respect. Not just tolerance, but actual respect. We had to understand that different cultures have different values, and we had to create shared rules that everyone could accept, even if those rules were different from what they were used to at home. Give me an example. Well, in some human cultures, showing the bottom of your foot to someone is a terrible insult. In other cultures, nobody cares about that at all. So when people from different cultures work together, they try to be aware of these differences. They avoid actions that would offend others, even if those actions seem normal to them. Shiala considered this. So you are saying the coalition needs shared rules that all species can accept, even if those rules differ from individual species traditions. I think so, Commander. But I am just a cadet. Perhaps you are exactly the right person, Shiala said. You have lived this problem. You understand it in a way most of us do not. The conversation continued for another hour. They discussed different aspects of human and Zentarii culture. Lauren learned that Zentarii children were not raised by their parents, but in communal training centers. Physical toughness was valued above almost everything else. Weakness was shameful. Emotion was considered a flaw to be controlled. In return, Lauren explained human concepts like bodily autonomy, emotional intelligence, and the idea that strength could mean many different things. She talked about how human military culture had changed over centuries, moving away from harsh physical punishment toward other methods of discipline. By the end of the meeting, Shiala looked thoughtful. I need to discuss this with General Vakthor. He needs to hear these things directly from someone who understands both perspectives. Do you think he will listen? Lauren asked. I do not know, but I think he must, whether he wants to or not. This incident has created a crisis. If we do not solve it correctly, it could damage the coalition's ability to function. 2 days later, Lauren found herself in front of the entire academy. A mandatory assembly had been called. Every cadet, every officer, every staff member was present. The massive assembly hall was packed with beings from dozens of different species. Ambassador Wright stood at the podium. The incident between Cadet Martinez and General Vakthor has raised important questions about how we operate as a coalition. Rather than hide from these questions, we are going to address them directly. Today, we will conduct a demonstration that will help all species better understand each other. Lauren's stomach tightened. She had been told about this demonstration, but standing in front of hundreds of people made it feel very real. The demonstration was simple but revealing. Human cadets, and cadets from other species, participated in basic reflex tests. The results were displayed on large screens for everyone to see. When a threat stimulus appeared, how fast could each species react? How quickly could they make a decision under pressure? How did their bodies respond to sudden danger? The humans consistently scored the fastest. It was not even close. What took a Zentarii 2.5 seconds took a human less than 1 second. What took a Peltharian 4 seconds took a human about 1.3 seconds. Captain Holland explained. Human evolution took place on what we call a death world. Earth had many predators. Humans who could react quickly to danger survived. Humans who could not react quickly died. Over millions of years, this created very fast threat response systems in human biology. On the screen, brain scans showed how human neural pathways worked, how the amygdala could trigger responses before the conscious mind even registered a threat, how adrenaline could flood the system in fractions of a second, how muscle memory could execute complex actions without conscious thought. One of the Centauri officers in the audience stood up. Are you saying humans cannot control these responses? Not exactly, a human medical officer named Dr. Claire Foster answered. With training and practice, humans can learn to control their reactions better. But in a genuine threat situation, especially when surprised, the automatic response system usually takes over. It is a survival mechanism. It kept our species alive. Lauren was then asked to demonstrate. She stood in the center of the hall, while a training instructor, a human named Sergeant Pete Duncan, showed basic self-defense techniques. He moved slowly, explaining each step. Then he showed what it looked like at full speed. The difference was shocking. At full speed, the techniques were almost invisible. One moment, Sergeant Duncan was standing normally. The next moment, he had neutralized a simulated attack and controlled the attacker. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. This is what Cadet Martinez did to General Vakthor, Duncan explained. She did not plan it. She did not think about it. Her body executed a defensive sequence that she has practiced thousands of times. To her, it felt automatic. To anyone watching, it looked impossibly fast. There was silence in the hall. Lauren could see faces throughout the audience processing this information. Some looked amazed. Some looked uncomfortable. A few looked frightened. General Vakthor himself stood up. The hall went completely quiet. Everyone wondered what he would say. His face was difficult to read, but his voice was steady. I have a question for the humans. If these reactions are automatic, how can we trust you in mixed units? How do we know you will not attack us by accident? Captain Holland answered carefully. The same way Centauri know not to use full strength when shaking hands with smaller species. The same way Peltharians know not to use their chemical defense spray in enclosed spaces with other species. Humans can learn to recognize different contexts. We can learn to control our responses in non-threatening situations. But we need everyone to understand our limits, just as we must understand yours. Another officer asked, what if someone cannot learn that control? Then they do not serve in mixed units? Holland replied simply. Just as Centauri who cannot adjust their physical strength do not work with fragile species. Just as Peltharians with poor chemical control do not serve on ships with sensitive species, the coalition already makes these accommodations. We are simply asking for the same consideration. Ambassador Wright stepped forward again. What we are proposing is comprehensive interspecies conduct protocols. Clear rules about physical contact. Clear guidelines about discipline methods. Training programs to help all species understand each other better. This will not be easy. It will require every species to adapt. Not just the humans. A Centauri general in the audience, not Vakthor but another senior officer, spoke up. You are asking us to change traditions that are thousands of years old. We are asking you to add new protocols when working with other species. Wright corrected. What you do in pure Centauri units is your own business. But when you work with humans, or Peltharians, or any other species, different rules must apply. That is what a coalition means. Working together despite our differences. The assembly continued for another hour. Questions came from all sides. Some were hostile. Some were genuinely curious. Lauren answered several questions about human culture and training. She tried to be honest about both human capabilities and human limitations. By the end, nothing was fully resolved. But something had changed. The other species in the room now understood that humans were not trying to be difficult or disobedient. They were simply different. And that difference came from millions of years of evolution on a world that demanded fast reactions to survive. As people filed out, Commander Shiala approached Lauren. "You did well today. You helped them understand." "I am not sure everyone was convinced, Commander." "No, not everyone. But enough were willing to listen. That is a start." Shiala paused. Lauren arrived at the meeting room exactly on time. Her uniform was perfect, her posture straight, but her hands would not stop shaking. She hid them behind her back as she entered. Commander Shiala was already there, standing near the window. And sitting at the table, looking somehow smaller than Lauren remembered, was General Vakthor. He stood when she entered. The gesture surprised her. In Zentari culture, as she understood it, superior officers rarely stood for subordinates. She came to attention automatically and saluted. He returned the salute, then gestured to a chair across from him. "Please sit, Cadet Martinez." Lauren sat carefully, keeping her back straight and her hands folded in her lap. Commander Shiala remained standing by the window, present but silent. This conversation was meant to be between Lauren and the general. Vakthor studied her for a long moment. His forearms were resting on the table, relaxed but not entirely at ease. His expression was hard to read. Finally, he spoke. "I have been a soldier for 50 years. I have trained thousands of cadets. I have served in battles across 7 systems. In all that time, no one has ever done to me what you did." Lauren swallowed hard but said nothing. She waited. "When you dropped me to my knees in front of my own cadets, I felt something I had not felt in decades. Humiliation. Shame. Rage." He paused. "But also, something else. Confusion. Because I did not understand how it happened. I am bigger than you. Stronger than you. Trained in combat for most of my life. Yet you defeated me in less than 2 seconds. Sir, I did not mean to." He held up one hand, stopping her. "Let me finish. I spent the last 3 days reviewing the security footage. I watched it 50 times. Maybe more. I watched how fast you moved. How precise your strikes were. How you used my own size against me. It was remarkable. And it made me ask questions I have never asked before." Lauren remained quiet, unsure where this was going. "I asked myself, why did she move that way? Why did her body react before her mind could stop it? And I realized I did not understand humans at all. I thought I did. I thought all soldiers were basically the same, just in different shapes, but I was wrong. Sir, humans are still learning to fit into the coalition. We make mistakes. As do we all." Vakthor leaned forward slightly. "Commander Shiala has taught me much about human culture these past days. About your concept of bodily autonomy. About your laws against physical violence. About how you raise your children without the harshness we consider necessary." He paused. "Also, about your raise your children without the harshness we consider necessary. When I struck you, I thought I was performing my duty as a commander. Teaching discipline, building strength. That is what Zentari commanders do. I understand that now, sir. But you did not understand it then. When my hand hit your face, you did not think about rank or tradition or protocol. You thought about survival. Your body protected itself the only way it knew how." Lauren nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. That is exactly what happened." Vakthor was quiet for a moment, his 4 hands clasped together on the table. "In Zentari culture, we have a saying, strength respects strength. I thought I knew what that meant. I thought it meant physical power, size, endurance. But you showed me a different kind of strength. Speed, precision, adaptation. You used your smaller size as an advantage, not a weakness. My instructors taught me that everyone is bigger than someone else. You have to work with what you have. Wise instructors." Vakthor unclasped his hands and spread them flat on the table. "I came here today to tell you something. I am withdrawing my complaint against you. I will recommend to the adjudicator that all charges be dropped. Lauren felt her breath catch. Sir? You acted in defense of yourself against what your culture and biology interpret as an attack. You did not plan aggression. You did not seek to harm me beyond neutralizing a threat. Under those circumstances, charging you would be unjust. He paused. Also, it would be hypocritical. I struck you first. In human law, that makes me the initial aggressor. If we are to be a true coalition, we cannot have two different standards of justice. Commander Shiala spoke for the first time. The General and I have spent many hours discussing this. It was not an easy conclusion for him to reach. It was not. Vakthor agreed. Admitting error is not part of Zentarai military tradition. Commanders are expected to be correct always, but I am learning that tradition is not the same as truth. He looked directly at Lauren. I was wrong to strike you. In a Zentarii training unit, my actions would have been appropriate. But you are not Zentarii. I should have known better. I should have learned about your species before attempting to discipline you using my species methods. Lauren did not know what to say. This was so far beyond what she had expected. Sir, I appreciate that. But I still struck a superior officer. Even if it was defensive, even if it was instinct, I still did it. Crossing to defense, yes, and that must have consequences as well, though not criminal charges. Vakthor pulled up a holographic document. I am proposing something to the Coalition Council. A new program. I want to call it the Integration Initiative. Its purpose will be to develop real protocols for mixed species military units. Clear rules that all species can understand and follow. Training programs to teach us about each other, not just cultural facts, but deep understanding. Lauren looked at the document. It was comprehensive. Detailed sections on physical contact protocols, discipline methods, conflict resolution, and cultural education. This looks like years of work. 1. Yes, and I want you to be part of it. Lauren's eyes went wide. Sir, you have lived this problem. You understand both the human perspective and now, somewhat, the Zentarii perspective. You can help bridge the gap. Commander Shiala has agreed to lead the initiative. I will serve as senior advisor. We need a human who can represent your species' viewpoint, someone who has credibility, someone who other humans will listen to. Sir, I am just a cadet. Nobody important. You are the cadet who survived an encounter with me and started a coalition-wide conversation about how we treat each other. That makes you important whether you want to be or not. Vakthor's expression softened slightly. I am not ordering you to accept. This would be voluntary. But I am asking you to consider it. Commander Shiala walked over and stood beside the table. Lauren, may I speak plainly? Of course, Commander. What happened between you and General Vakthor was terrible. But it also revealed a truth that we all needed to face. The coalition cannot function if we do not respect each other's fundamental nature. We have been pretending that unity means conformity. We have been forcing smaller or newer species to adapt to established patterns without question. That approach is failing. I have seen that failure, Vakthor added. I have seen other incidents, smaller ones, that were ignored because they seemed unimportant. But they were important. Each one was a sign that our system was broken. Your situation simply made the break too large to ignore. Lauren thought about Kyle and Amy and the other human cadets. She thought about the tension in the corridors. She thought about all the species trying to work together while barely understanding each other. If I agree to this, what would it actually mean? What would I do? You would help design training programs, Shiala explained. You would work with representatives from other species to develop shared protocols. You would test these protocols with real mixed units. You would help write the guidelines that will govern how different species interact in coalition military structures. That sounds like something for officers and diplomats, not cadets. It requires someone with recent training experience, Vakthor said. Someone who remembers what it is like to be new, to be uncertain, to be learning. Officers forget these things. We become set in our ways. We need fresh perspective. Lauren looked between the general and the commander. A week ago, one had struck her, and she had struck him back. Now they were asking her to help rebuild how the entire coalition military operated. It seemed impossible. It seemed overwhelming, but it also seemed necessary. If I do this, I need to ask for something in return, Lauren said carefully. Vakthor raised an eyebrow. Bold. What do you want? I want other cadets involved, not just me. I want humans like Kyle Patterson, who saw what happened, and understand it. But I also want Centauri cadets. And Peltharians. And representatives from every species. This cannot be designed by just a few people at the top. It needs input from the people who will actually have to live with these rules. Shiala smiled. That is an excellent idea. It is also more complicated, Vakthor said, but then he nodded. However, complications are often necessary for quality results. Very well. We will form a working group with cadets from multiple species. You will lead the human contingent. I am not qualified to lead anything. Sir, you led yourself through an impossible situation and survived with your integrity intact. That is leadership enough. Vakthor stood, and Lauren quickly stood as well. I will submit this proposal to the Coalition Council tomorrow. The final hearing on your case is scheduled for the day after. I will attend and speak on your behalf. Sir, you do not have to. Yes, I do. What happened was as much my failure as yours. More mine than yours, actually. I created the situation. You simply survived it. He extended one of his large hands toward her. I cannot undo what I did. I cannot remove the bruise from your face or the memory from your mind. But I can try to make certain it never happens to anyone else. Will you help me do that? Lauren looked at his extended hand. A week ago, that hand had struck her. Now it was offering partnership. The symbolism was not lost on her. She reached out and shook it. His grip was firm but careful, adjusted for her smaller size and strength. I will help, sir. Good. Then, we begin tomorrow. As Lauren left the meeting room, her mind was spinning. Everything had changed so quickly. She had gone from facing criminal charges to being offered a role in reshaping coalition policy. It felt surreal. Commander Shiala caught up with her in the corridor. Lauren, wait a moment. Lauren stopped and turned. Yes, Commander? I want you to know something. What General Vakthor did today was extraordinary. Centauri commanders do not admit error. They do not withdraw complaints. They do not ask subordinates for help. For him to do all three is almost unheard of in our culture. Why did he do it then? Because you made him see something he had never seen before. You made him question assumptions he has held his entire life. That is a rare gift, even when it comes through pain. Shiala paused. Also, I think he respects you. In Centauri culture, we respect those who show strength. You showed him strength he did not know existed. Lauren touched the fading bruise on her face. It does not feel like strength. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. You were tested, Lauren. You did not break. That is the definition of strength. That night, Lauren video called her father back on Earth. He was a retired colonel, gray-haired and still imposing despite his age. When he saw her bruised face on the screen, his expression darkened. Tell me everything, he said. She did. The whole story. The slap, her reaction, the hearing, the demonstration, and finally, the meeting with Vakthor. Her father listened without interrupting, his face moving through various expressions. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You did the right thing. Every step of the way. I am proud of you. Even though I hit a general, especially because of that, you defended yourself when attacked. That is what I taught you. But then, and this is the part that really matters, you did not let anger control what came next. You tried to understand. You worked toward a solution. That takes more courage than winning a fight." 6 months had passed since the incident in the training chamber. Lauren stood in the observation deck, looking down at a mixed-species training exercise. From here, She could see the entire simulation floor where human, Zentarii, Peltharian, and 3 other species worked together on a complex tactical scenario. The difference from 6 months ago was remarkable. Each species wore color-coded bands that indicated their physical contact preferences. Blue meant standard contact was acceptable. Yellow meant ask first. Red meant avoid all physical contact except emergencies. It was simple, clear, and it worked. Commander Shiala stood beside her, making notes on a tablet. Squad 7 is performing well. The communication protocols are working. Yes, but look at Squad 3. Lauren pointed. The Peltharian in the back position keeps getting separated. They are not adapting to her slower movement speed. Good catch. We will address that in the review session. This had become Lauren's life. Watching training exercises, identifying problems, working with cadets and officers from multiple species to find solutions. The integration initiative had grown far beyond what anyone expected. What started as a response to one incident had become a comprehensive restructuring of how the coalition military operated. The final hearing 6 months ago seemed like a distant memory now. General Vakthor had spoken on Lauren's behalf, explaining to the adjudicator and the assembled representatives that the fault was shared, that charging her would be unjust. The adjudicator had agreed. All charges were dropped. Instead, Lauren was officially reprimanded for striking a superior officer. But the reprimand included a note explaining the mitigating circumstances. It would remain on her record, but would not prevent advancement. More importantly, the hearing had resulted in coalition-wide changes. Every academy station now had mandatory interspecies conduct training. Physical discipline was prohibited in mixed units. Cultural liaison officers were assigned to every major command, and the integration initiative became an official coalition program with funding and authority. Lauren heard footsteps behind her and turned. General Vakthor approached, his 4 arms carrying various tablets and documents. He looked tired but satisfied. He spent most of his time now on administrative work rather than training. The shift had been hard for him, but he had adapted. Cadet Martinez, Commander, how are the exercises progressing? Well, overall, sir, Shiala replied. A few minor issues, but nothing serious. Good. I have news from Coalition Command. They want to expand the program to 3 more academy stations. They are also requesting that we develop protocols for ship crews and ground combat units. Lauren felt both pride and exhaustion at those words. Sir, we are already stretched thin. The team has been working 12-hour days. I know, which is why I recommended you for promotion. It was approved this morning. Effective immediately. You are Junior Lieutenant Lauren Martinez. Congratulations. Lauren stared at him. Sir, I have only been a cadet for 14 months total. Yes, highly irregular. But your contributions to the integration initiative have been substantial. You have earned this promotion through merit. He handed her a small box. Inside was the rank insignia of a junior lieutenant. Captain Holland will conduct the formal ceremony tomorrow, but I wanted to tell you personally. Lauren looked at the insignia in her hand. Junior lieutenant. She had imagined earning this rank someday. But not like this. Not 6 months after nearly being expelled from the academy. Thank you, sir. I will do my best to deserve it. You already have. Vakthor turned to watch the training exercise below. Do you remember our first conversation after the incident? I told you that strength respects strength. I thought I understood what I meant, but you have shown me that strength takes many forms. Not just physical power, but the strength to admit error, the strength to change, the strength to build instead of destroy. You have shown me the same things, sir. You changed your entire approach to training. That took courage. It took necessity. And perhaps some small amount of wisdom, late in coming. He smiled slightly, an expression that still looked strange on his Zentarii features. I spent 50 years certain I knew the right way to lead soldiers. Then a cadet half my size proved me wrong in less than 2 seconds. It was humbling. But humility, I am learning, is not weakness. Shiala checked her tablet. The exercise is concluding. We should head down for the review session. The review session took place in a large conference room. Cadets from all 7 species involved in the exercise sat in a mixed arrangement. No species grouping together, no segregation. That alone was progress. 6 months ago, cadets naturally separated by species. Now they mixed freely. Lauren led the discussion. She pointed out what went well and what needed improvement. She did it carefully, making sure to praise effort and focus criticism on systems rather than individuals. She had learned that different species responded to feedback differently. Zentarii needed direct, clear statements. Humans preferred explanation and context. Peltharians needed time to process before responding. A Zentarii cadet named Krevtar spoke up. Lieutenant Martinez, I have a question about the Blue Contact Band protocol. If I see a human teammate in danger, am I allowed to pull them out of the way? Yes. Emergency situations override standard contact preferences. But you should explain what you are doing while you do it, if possible. Say something like, "Threat detected, moving you to safety." That way the person understands they are being helped, not attacked. What if there is no time to explain? Then you act first and explain immediately after. The key is communication. Help your teammates understand your actions. A human cadet named Lisa Cooper raised her hand. I have the opposite question. If a Zentarii teammate is in danger, and I need to help them, how do I do that without getting hurt myself? They are so much bigger and heavier. A Zentarii senior officer named Lieutenant Carvin answered this one. He had become an important part of the integration initiative, teaching humans about Zentarii physiology. Use leverage, not strength. Human combat techniques that work on other humans often work on Zentarii as well, because they rely on balance and physics rather than raw power. Also, do not be afraid to ask us for help. We are your team. The discussion continued for an hour. Questions, answers, shared experiences, small adjustments to protocols. This was how real change happened, Lauren had learned. Not through grand declarations, but through small improvements, repeated consistently over time. After the session, Kyle Patterson approached her. He had been part of the integration initiative from the start, representing human cadets on the working group. Hey, Junior Lieutenant. That sounds weird to say. It sounds weird to hear, Lauren admitted. How are you doing with the new squad assignments? Good. I am working with 2 Zentarii, 1 Peltharian, and another human. It is challenging, but in a good way. We are learning to work with our differences instead of despite them. He paused. You know, I have been thinking about that day in the training chamber. When Vakthor hit you and you dropped him, I thought the whole coalition was going to fall apart. Amen. Amen. I thought my career was over. Instead, you rebuilt the entire system. That is kind of amazing. I did not do it alone. Everyone contributed. But you started it. You showed us that the old way was not working. That took guts. Kyle smiled. I am proud to serve with you, Lieutenant. After he left, Lauren walked through the academy corridors alone. She had some free time before the next meeting. A rare luxury. She found herself heading toward the simulation chamber, where everything had started. The doors were open, the chamber empty. She walked to the spot where she had stood when General Vakthor struck her. The bruise had healed months ago, but the memory remained vivid. She could still feel the shock of his hand hitting her face, the automatic response of her body, the terrible moment when she realized what she had done. Do you come here often? A voice asked. Lauren turned. General Vakthor stood in the doorway. He walked in slowly, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. Sometimes, Lauren admitted, when I need to remember. Remember what? That change is possible. That conflicts can lead to understanding. That mistakes can become opportunities. She looked at him. Do you come here? Yes, for similar reasons. He walked to the spot where he had fallen. This is where I learned humility. Where I discovered that the way I had done things for 50 years was not the only way, not even necessarily the best way. Do you regret what happened, sir? Vakthor considered the question carefully. I regret striking you. I regret the pain I caused. But I cannot regret where it led. The coalition is stronger now. More honest. More functional. We are building something better than what we had before. Built on my bruised face and your bruised ego, Lauren said with a slight smile. An unfortunate foundation, but effective nonetheless. He looked around the empty chamber. We have a new training scenario tomorrow. The largest mixed species exercise yet, 12 species, over 200 personnel. It will test everything we have built. Are we ready? We will find out. But I believe we are as ready as we can be. He turned to leave, then paused. Lieutenant Martinez, I want you to lead the exercise. Sir? Should that not be a more senior officer? You are the one who understands the integration protocols best. You helped write them. You trained everyone. You should see them put into practice at full scale. He smiled, that still awkward smile. Also, I think it will be valuable for everyone to see a human in command of a major coalition operation. It sends a message about what is possible. Lauren felt nervous excitement building. I will do my best, sir. I know you will. That is why I chose you. The next day, Lauren stood in the command center overlooking the largest training exercise the Academy had ever conducted. 12 species, 237 personnel. A scenario designed to be nearly impossible without perfect coordination. The objectives were complex. Secure multiple positions simultaneously. Rescue civilians of various species with different needs. Respond to evolving threats. Adapt to equipment failures. Communicate across language and cultural barriers. It was designed to simulate the chaos of real coalition operations. Lauren wore a command headset that connected her to team leaders from all 12 species. Captain Holland stood beside her as an advisor but had made it clear this was her exercise. Her command, all teams. This is Lieutenant Martinez. Prepare to begin on my mark. She watched the readiness indicators on the holographic display. All green. Exercise begins in 3, 2, 1. Mark. The simulation chamber came alive with activity. Teams moved to their assigned positions. The first objective appeared. A building collapse with trapped civilians. 3 species rushed to respond, each contributing their unique capabilities. Centauri provided strength for moving debris. Humans coordinated rescue efforts with their quick decision-making. Peltharians used their chemical sensors to detect survivors. Then the complications began. Equipment failures, changing threat conditions, conflicting information. This was where most exercises fell apart. Where species started ignoring each other and falling back on individual instincts. But not this time. Lauren watched as team leaders communicated clearly, using the protocols they had developed. When a Centauri squad leader made a decision too quickly without consulting his mixed team, his human second-in-command reminded him of the protocol. The leader corrected immediately. When a human team became scattered, their Centauri teammate rallied them using techniques they had learned in integration training. The exercise lasted 3 hours. It was messy. It was chaotic. But it worked. Not perfectly, but well enough. When the final objective was secured and the simulation ended, every team had succeeded. Some barely, some more smoothly, but all had completed their missions. Lauren called all team leaders to the command center for immediate debriefing. As they filed in, she could see exhaustion on every face, regardless of species. But she also saw something else. Pride, satisfaction, the look of people who had overcome a genuine challenge together. Well done, everyone, Lauren began. That was the most complex exercise this academy has ever attempted. You handled it professionally and effectively. Let us review what worked and what needs improvement. The debriefing took 2 hours. Honest assessment of successes and failures. Lauren made sure everyone had a chance to speak. She listened to perspectives from all 12 species. She took notes on what protocols needed adjustment. As the meeting concluded, one of the Centauri team leaders, a senior cadet named Rector, stood up. Lieutenant Martinez, may I say something? Of course. 6 months ago, I thought humans did not belong in the coalition military. I thought you were too soft, too emotional, too unpredictable. I was angry about what happened between you and General Vakthor. I thought you should have been expelled. He paused. I was wrong. Today, I watched human speed and adaptability save my team 3 times. I watched human compassion help us rescue civilians my team would have missed. I learned that being different from Zentarii does not mean being inferior to Zentarii. Thank you for teaching me that. Other voices added their agreement. Not everyone, not universal, but enough to matter. The room filled with the sounds of multiple species expressing respect in their own ways. After everyone left, Lauren remained in the command center. Captain Holland approached her. That was exceptional leadership, Lieutenant. You should feel proud. I feel relieved, sir, and grateful. A year ago, I was a cadet hoping to survive basic training. Now I am commanding multi-species exercises. It does not feel real. It is real. You made it real. Holland put a hand on her shoulder. The Coalition Council is watching your work. They are impressed. When you complete your current training cycle, you will have your choice of assignments. Probably any posting you want. I already know what I want, sir. I want to stay with the Integration Initiative. There is still so much work to do. That is what I hoped you would say. Commander Shiala will be pleased. So will General Vakthor. That evening, Lauren attended a ceremony in the Academy's main hall. A formal recognition event for everyone involved in the Integration Initiative. Representatives from all Coalition species attended. Lauren stood with her team, humans and aliens together. As the Coalition Director spoke about the importance of their work, General Vakthor was awarded a commendation for his leadership in reforming training protocols. Commander Shiala received recognition for her cultural liaison work. Lauren and several other cadets, now lieutenants, were honored for their contributions to interspecies cooperation. But the most significant moment came when the director announced that the Integration Initiative protocols were being adopted coalition-wide. Every military academy, every ship, every ground unit would now follow the guidelines they had developed. It was no longer an experiment. It was official policy. After the ceremony, Lauren found a quiet corner outside the hall. She looked up at the stars visible through the station's observation windows. Somewhere out there, on thousands of ships and stations and planets, humans and aliens would work together, using the protocols she had helped create. It was a strange feeling, knowing that her experience had affected so many lives. Reflecting on success? General Vakthor's voice came from behind her. Reflecting on how strange life can be, sir. One moment can change everything. Indeed it can. He stood beside her, looking at the stars as well. When I struck you that day, I thought I was teaching you discipline. Instead, you taught me wisdom. That is an irony I will remember for the rest of my life. You learned quickly, sir. Not everyone can change the way you did. Change was not comfortable. It is still not comfortable. But comfort is not the same as correctness. He turned to look at her. I want you to know something, Lieutenant Martinez. In Zentarii culture, we have a tradition. When a soldier teaches a commander an important lesson, the commander owes that soldier a debt. I owe you such a debt. If you ever need anything within my power to provide, you need only ask. Sir, you do not owe me anything. We helped each other. That is the human perspective. But I am Zentarii, and this is how we honor those who make us better. He placed one large hand on her shoulder, a gesture that would have terrified her 6 months ago but now felt like respect between colleagues. Serve well, Lieutenant. Build on what we started here. Make the coalition truly worthy of its name. I will try, sir. That is all anyone can do. As Vakthor walked away, Lauren remained at the window. She thought about the journey from that terrible moment in the training chamber to this recognition ceremony. She thought about all the people who had helped along the way. Shiala, Holland, Kyle, her father, even Vakthor himself. But mostly, she thought about the future. About all the human and alien soldiers who would serve together. about the conflicts they would face and the understanding they would build, about the coalition they were all creating together. One protocol at a time, one relationship at a time, one choice at a time. She had been slapped. She had struck back. And from that moment of violence and conflict had come understanding and cooperation. It was messy. It was complicated. It was imperfect. But it was progress. And progress, Lauren had learned, was what mattered most. She touched the lieutenant insignia on her uniform and smiled. The future was uncertain. The challenges ahead were real. But for the first time since that day in the training chamber, she felt ready to face them, not alone, not anymore. She had teammates now, from a dozen different species. She had protocols that worked. She had leaders who listened. She had a coalition that was learning, slowly but surely, how to become more than just a collection of different species sharing space. They were becoming something real, something lasting, something worth protecting, and Lauren Martinez, human lieutenant in the Galactic Coalition military, would do everything in her power to help make that vision a reality. The work was just beginning. But today, just for a moment, she let herself celebrate how far they had come. Tomorrow, they would start again. Building, growing, learning, together. It does not feel courageous. It feels confusing. Her father smiled slightly. Welcome to real leadership. It is always confusing, but you are doing fine. Trust yourself. After the call ended, Lauren sat in her quarters and looked at the holographic document Vakthor had shown her. The Integration Initiative. Pages and pages of ideas for making the coalition actually work. And somehow, she was going to be part of making it real. She thought about the general, struggling to admit error in a culture that punished weakness. She thought about Commander Shiala, working to bridge gaps between species that barely understood each other. She thought about Captain Holland and Ambassador Wright, fighting to make space for humans in a coalition that was not built for them. And she thought about herself, a cadet who had just wanted to serve, now caught up in something much bigger. It was terrifying. It was overwhelming. But maybe, just maybe, it was also where she needed to be. Ed. General Vakthor wants to speak with you tomorrow, privately. Lauren felt her heart skip. Is that safe? I will be there as a witness. I promise you, it will be safe. But I think it will also be difficult. He has much to process. We all do. That night, Lauren lay in her bunk and thought about everything that had happened. One slap had turned into a coalition-wide discussion about culture and biology. She had become a symbol for something much bigger than herself. She was not sure she wanted that responsibility, but it seemed she had no choice in the matter. Tomorrow she would face General Vakthor again. She had no idea what he would say. She only hoped they could find some kind of understanding. Finally, Rentok raised his hand for silence. This hearing is more complex than anticipated. We are not just deciding one cadet's fate. We are establishing precedent for how different species interact within coalition military structures. I am postponing final judgment for 3 days. During that time, I want recommendations from each species delegation on how to handle interspecies conduct violations. We will reconvene then, as people filed out. Lauren felt both relieved and anxious. 3 more days of uncertainty. 3 more days of knowing that whatever decision came would affect more than just her. She had become a symbol, whether she wanted to be or not. Captain Holland put a hand on her shoulder. You did well in there. Stay strong. Lauren nodded. But inside, she felt anything but strong. She felt like a small person caught between large forces she could not control. And somewhere, in the back of her mind, a question kept repeating. How could any of them build a real coalition when they could not even agree on something as basic as whether hitting someone was acceptable? Lauren's hands were shaking now. Her cheek throbbed where Vakthor had struck her. She could feel it swelling already, but that pain was nothing compared to the cold fear spreading through her chest as she realized exactly what she had done. She had just assaulted a superior officer. A general. In front of dozens of witnesses. Her career was over. Possibly her freedom. Maybe even her life, depending on how the Zentarii responded to such an insult. Captain Greg Holland, a human officer who had been observing from the upper level, was now racing down the stairs, his face a mixture of concern and something that looked like barely controlled panic. This was a diplomatic nightmare. Humans were still new to the Galactic Coalition, still proving themselves, and now one of their cadets had just attacked one of the Coalition's most senior officers. Lauren stood perfectly still, watching as Zentarii officers helped General Vok Thor to his feet. The general was recovering now, his breathing returning to normal. But his eyes never left Lauren. And in those eyes, she could see that everything was about to change.